Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So I am economics PhD candidate in my fourth year at McGill, and I study child development, econometrics, and human capital. And so what I do in the RDC is that I try to understand how childhood behavior and skills develop over time, and how does this affect the labor market outcomes. And why this is important in this literature is that we, as economists, we like to see how does skills in children translate into labor market, because ultimately the parents are the decision makers of these children. Like no child at like age 8 is going to like enrolling themselves in a coding boot camp to up the skills. It's the parents that do that. So why this studying this is important for policy impact is that if I am, for example, the government and want to um, give a cash transfer to the parents, well, I want to see how that does that translate into these skills for the children. And so what we know in this literature is that cognition is very important for the labor market, but there's a little bit more of a little bit more of a puzzle when it comes to socio-emotional skills. And these are like confidence, soft skills you might have heard, and that we find in that this literature is that these soft skills are that in some occupations, the returns to these soft skills are more important than cognition, and you could think of it as like sales jobs. We also know that, for example, internalizing behavior is good for educational outcomes, but externalizing behavior is bad for uh, educational outcomes. But the opposite is true when you look at wages, where externalizing behavior is good for wages and internalized behavior is bad for wages. And so what my project does is that I look at the National Longitudinal Survey of Children and Youth. It's conducted between 1994 to 2009. And it's a longitudinal survey. And I look at children at ages 10, 12, and 14. And there's 60 self-reported questions on socio-emotional skills. And these 60 self-reported questions, they are categorical in nature. And that's where my econometrics side comes in, is that I map categorical measures into a continuous measure. And then there's just some math that goes on in that. And so recently, this has been linked to the child's family tax file. So I also see what they earn in the future. And so, right, just again, the research question that I have is that how do these skills develop over time? And then how do these skills affect their labor market outcome? And so what I can do when I model it, I can simulate these counterfactual policies. I can simulate what happens when I give a $20,000 cash transfer to these parents, and how does that affect their skills that develop over time? And if I give it to these children, this $20,000 cash transfer to these children at age 10 versus 12, what's the difference in that? And I find that, well, it's more important to give it to when the child's younger, because these soft skills, these social-emotional skills, kind of over time, they get stronger, they get more persistent, and you can think of it as your personality locking in. Um, so again, just to reiterate, what I do is I take these measures, 60 category measures, and I use some latent factor analysis. I construct 5 skill indices and a math skill. I measure that over 10, 12, and 14, and I really pay attention to measurement in this system. And then I estimate these econometric production function models, and then I link it to these adult outcomes. So that is it for me. I don't have a thank you slide, but yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jacob.